Jubilees 10. And in the 3rd week of this Jubilee, the unclean demons began to lead astray the children of the sons of Noah, and to err and to destroy them. And the sons of Noah came to Noah their father, and they told him concerning the demons, which were leading astray and blinding and slaying his sons. And he prayed before Yahweh, his sovereign ruler, and said, Yahweh Elohim of the spirits of all flesh, who have shown mercy unto me, and have saved me and my sons from the waters of the flood, and have not caused me to perish as you did the sons of perdition. For your free unmerited pardon has been great towards me, and great as has been your mercy to my soul. Let your free unmerited pardon be lifted up upon my sons, and let not wicked spirits rule over them, lest they should destroy them from the earth. But do you bless me and my sons, that we may increase and multiply and replenish the earth. And you know how your watchers, the fathers of these spirits, acted in my day, and as for these spirits which are living, imprison them and hold them fast in the place of condemnation, and let them not bring destruction on the sons of your servant, my sovereign ruler. For these are malignant and created in order to destroy. And let them not rule over the spirits of the living, for you alone can exercise dominion over them, and let them not have power over the sons of the righteous from henceforth and forevermore. Leolam Vaed. And Yahweh Tezavot, our sovereign ruler, bade us to bind all, and the chief of all spirits, the archangel Mastema, came and said, Yahweh, Creator, let some of them remain before me, and let them listen to my voice, and do all that I say unto them. For if some of them are not left to me, I shall not be able to execute the power of my will on the sons of men. For these are for corruption and leading astray before my judgment. For great is the wickedness of the sons of men. And he said, let the 10th part of them remain before him, and let 9 parts descend into the place of condemnation. And one of us he commanded that we should teach Noah all their medicines, for he knew that they would not walk in uprightness, nor strive in righteousness. And we did according Jubilees 11. The sons of Noah begin to war, and to shed the blood of the men on the earth, and to eat blood. And in the 35th Jubilee, in the 3rd week, in the 1st year, 1681 a.m., thereof Reu took to himself a wife, and her name was Orah, the daughter of Ur, the son of Chesed, and she bare him a son, and he called his name Seroah. In the 7th year of this week, in this Jubilee, 1687 a.m., and the sons of Noah began to war on each other, to take captive, to slay each other, and to shed the blood of men on the earth, and to eat blood, and to build strong cities, and walls, and towers, and individuals began to exalt themselves above the nations, and to found the beginnings of kingdoms, and to go to war, people against people, and nation against nation, and city against city, and all began to do evil, and to acquire arms, and to teach their sons the art of war, and they began to capture cities, and to sell male and female slaves. And Ur, the son of Chesed, built the city of Ara of the Chaldees, and called its name after his own name, and the name of his father. And they made for themselves molten images, and they worshipped each the idol and molten image which they had made for themselves. And they began to make graven images and unclean simulacra, and malignant spirits assisted and seduced them into committing transgressions and uncleannesses. And the prince Mastema exerted himself to do all this, and he sent forth other spirits, those which were put under his hand, to do all manner of wrong and sin, and all manner of transgression, to corrupt and destroy, and to shed blood upon the earth. For this reason he called the name of Seroah Serug, for every one turned to do all manner of sin and transgression. And he grew up and dwelt in Ur of the Chaldees, near to the father of his wife's mother. And he worshipped idols, and he took to himself a wife in the 36th Jubilee, in the 5th week, in the 1st year thereof, 1744 a.m. And her name was Melchah, the daughter of Kebar, the daughter of his father's brother. And The Book of Jubilees, chapter 11. The sons of Noah began to war and to shed the blood of men on the earth, and to eat blood. And in the 35th Jubilee, in the 3rd week, in the 1st year, 1681 a.m., thereof Reu took to himself a wife, and her name was Orah, the daughter of Ur, the son of Chesed. And she bare him a son, and he called his name Sarah. In the 70th year of this week, in this Jubilee, 1687 a.m. And the sons of Noah began to war on each other, to take captive and to slay each other, and to shed the blood of men on the earth, and to eat the blood, and to build strong cities and walls and towers. And individuals began to exalt themselves above the nations, and to found the beginnings of kingdoms, and to go to war against people, and nation against nation, and city against city. And all began to do evil, and to acquire arms, and to teach their sons war, and they began to capture cities, and to sell male and female slaves. And Ur, the son of Chesed, built the city of Arba of the Chaldees, and called its name after his own name, and the name of his father. And they made for themselves molten images, and they worshipped each the idol, the molten images which they had made for themselves. And they began to make graven images, and unclean simulacra, and malignant spirits assisted and seduced them into committing transgression and uncleanness. And the prince Mastema exerted himself to do all this, and he sent forth other spirits, those which were put under his hand, to do all manner of wrong and sin, and all manner of transgression, to corrupt and destroy, and to shed blood upon the earth. For this reason he called the name Serug, for every one turned to do all manner of sin and transgression. And he grew up and dwelt in Ur of the Chaldees, near to the father of his wife's mother, and he worshipped idols. And he took to himself a wife in the 36th Jubilee, in the 5th week, in the 1st year thereof, 1744 a.m. And her name was Milcah, the daughter of Gerar, the daughter and his father's brother. And she bore him Nahor in the 1st year of this week. And he grew and dwelt in Ur of the Chaldees, and his father taught him the researches of the Chaldees, to divine and augur according to the signs of heaven. And in the 37th Jubilee, in the 6th week, in the 1st year thereof, 1800 a.m., he took to himself a wife, and her name was Iyaska, the daughter of Nestag of the Chaldees. And she bare him Terah in the 7th year of this week, 1806. And the prince Mastema sent ravens and birds to devour the seed which was sown in the land, in order to destroy the land and rob the children of men of their labors, before they could plow in the seed. Jubilees 11, verse 15, the birth of Abram. In the 7th year of this week, 1876 a.m., she bare him a son, and he called his name Abram, by the name of the father of his mother, for he had died before his daughter had conceived a son. And the child began to understand the errors of the earth, that all went astray after graven images and after uncleanness. And his father taught him writing, and he was 2 weeks of years old, 1890 a.m. And he separated himself from his father, that he might not worship idols with him. And he began to pray to the Creator of all things, that he might save him from the errors of the children of men, and that his portion should not fall into error after uncleanness and vileness. And the seed time came for the sowing of seed upon the land, and they all went forth together to protect the seed against the ravens. And Abram went forth from those that went, and the child was a lad of 14 years. And a cloud of ravens came to devour the seed, and Abram ran to meet them before they settled on the ground, and cried to them before they settled on the ground to devour the seed, and said, Descend not, return to the place where you came. And they proceeded to turn back. And he caused the clouds of ravens to turn back to the day 70 times, and all of the ravens throughout the land where Abram was there settled, and there was not so much as one. And all who were with him throughout all the land saw him cry out, and all the ravens turned back. And his name became great in all the land of the Chaldees. And there came to him this year all those that wished to sow, and he went with them until the time of sowing ceased. And they sowed their land, and that the year they brought enough grain home and eat, and were satisfied. And in the 1st year of the 1st week, 1891 a.m., Abram taught those who made implements for oxen, and artificers in wood, and they made a vessel above the ground, facing the frame of the plow, in order to put the seed thereon, and the seed fell down there from upon the share of the plow, and was hidden in the earth, and they no longer feared the ravens. And after this manner they made vessels above the ground on all the frames of the plows, and they sowed and tilled all the land according as Abram commanded. Jubilees 12. Abram destroys Terah, his father's idols. And it came to pass in the 6th week, in the 7th year thereof, 19:04 a.m., that Abram said to Terah his father, saying, Father. And he said, Behold, here am I, my son. And he said, What help and profit have we from those idols which you do worship, and before which do you bow yourself? For there is no spirit in them, for they are dumb forms, and a misleading of the heart. Worship them not. Worship Yahweh, the sovereign ruler of heaven, who causes the rain and the dew to descend on the earth, and does everything upon the earth, and has created everything by his word. And all life is from before his face. Why do you worship things that have no spirit in them? For they are the work of hands, and on your shoulders do you bear them, and you have no help for them. But they are a great cause of shame to those who make them, and a misleading of the heart to those who worship them. Worship them not. And his father said to him, I also know it, my son, but what shall I do with a people who have made me to serve before them? And if I tell them the truth, they shall slay me, for their souls cleave to them, to worship them and honor them. Keep silent, my son, lest they slay you. And these words we spoke to his 2 brothers, and they were angry with him, and he kept silent. And in the 40th Jubilee, in the 2nd week, in the 7th year thereof, 19:25 a.m., Abram took to himself a wife, and her name was Sarai, the daughter of his father, and she became his wife. And Haran, his brother, took to himself a wife in the 3rd year of the 3rd week, 19:28 a.m., and she bare him a son in the 7th year of this week, 19:32 a.m., and he called his name Lot. And Nahor his brother took to himself a wife, and in the 60th year of the life of Abraham, that is, in the 4th week, in the 4th year thereof, 19:36 a.m., Abram arose by night, and burned the house of the idols, and he burned all that was in the house, and no man knew it. And they arose in the night, and sought to save their deities, their gods, their idols, from the midst of the fire. And Haran hastened to save them, but the fire flamed over him, and he was burnt in the fire. And he died in Ur of the Chaldees before Terah his father, and they buried him in Ur of the Chaldees. And Terah went forth from Ur, Jubilees 13. And Abram journeyed from Haran, and he took Sarai his wife, and Lot his brother Haran's son, to the land of Canaan. And he came into Ashur, and proceeded to Shechem, and dwelt near a lofty oak. And he saw and beheld, the land was very pleasant, from the entering of Hamath to the lofty oak. And Yahweh said to him, to you and to your seed I will give this land. And he built an altar there, and he offered thereon a burnt sacrifice to Yahweh, who had appeared to him. And he removed from there to the mountain Bethel on the west, and Ai on the east, and pitched his tent there. And he saw and beheld, the land was very wide and good, and everything grew therein, vines and figs and pomegranates, oaks and ilexes and terebinths and oil trees and cedars and cypresses and date trees and all trees of the field, and there was water on the mountains. And he blessed Yahweh, who had led him out of Ur of the Chaldees, and brought him to this land. And it came to pass in the first year, in the seventh week, on the new month of the first month, 1954 a.m., that he built an altar on this mountain, and called on the name of Yahweh. You, the eternal Yahweh, Tezavot, you are my sovereign ruler. And he offered on the altar a burnt sacrifice unto Yahweh, that he should be with him, and not forsake him all the days of his life. And he removed from there, and he went towards the south, and he came to Hebron. And Hebron was built at that time. And he dwelt there 2 years, and he went there into the land of the south, to Beeloth, and there was a famine in the land. And Abram went into Egypt in the 3rd year of the week, and he dwelt in Egypt 5 years before his wife was torn away from him. Now Tanis in Egypt was at that time built 7 years after Hebron. And it came to pass, when Pharaoh seized Sarai, the wife of Abram, that Yahweh plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plague because of Sarai, Abram's wife. And Abram was very wealthy by reason of possessions in sheep, and in cattle, and in asses, and horses, and camels, and men servants, and maid servants, and in silver and gold exceedingly. And Lot, also his brother's son, was wealthy. And Pharaoh gave back Sarai, the wife of Abram, and he sent him out of the land of Egypt. And he journeyed to the place where Jubilees 14. After these things, in the 4th year of this week, on the new month of the 3rd month, of the word of Yahweh came to Abram in a dream, saying, Fear not, Abram, I am your defender, and your reward will be with exceedingly great. And he said, Yahweh Almighty, what will you give me, seeing I go hence childless? And the son of Masek, the son of my handmaid, is the Damascus Eleazar. He will be my heir, and to me you have given no seed. And he said to him, This man will not be yours heirs, but one that will come out of your own bowels that will be your heir. And he brought him forth abroad, and said to him, Look toward heaven, and number the stars, and you are able to number them? And he looked towards heaven, and beheld the stars, and he said to him, So shall your seed be. And he believed in Yahweh, and it was counted to him for righteousness. And he said to him, I am Yahweh that brought you out of Ur of the Chaldees, to give you the land of the Canaanites, to possess it forever. And I will be sovereign ruler unto you, and to your seed after you. And he said, Yahweh Tezavot, Almighty, whereby shall I know that I shall inherit? And he said to him, Take me an heifer of 3 years, and a goat of 3 years, and a sheep of 3 years, and a turtle dove, and 1 pigeon. And he took all these things in the middle of the month, and he dwelt at the oak of Mamre, which is near Hebron. And he built there an altar, gathering the unhewn stones, and sacrificed all these. And he poured their blood upon the altar, and divided them in the midst, and laid them over against each other. But the birds divided he not. And birds came down upon the pieces, and Abram drove them away, and did not suffer the birds to touch them. And it came to pass, when the sun had set, that an ecstasy fell upon Abram, and lo, a horror and a great darkness fell upon him. And it was said to Abram, Know of a surety that your seed shall be a stronger in a land that is not theirs, and they shall bring them into bondage, and afflict them 400 years. And the nation also to whom they will be in bondage will I judge. Jubilees 15. And in the 5th month of the 4th week of this Jubilee, 1979 a.m., in the 3rd month, in the middle of the month, Abram celebrated the feast of first fruits and a grain harvest, and he ordered new offerings on the altar, and the first fruits of the produce unto Yahweh, an heifer, and a goat, and a sheep on the altar, as a burnt sacrifice unto Yahweh. Their fruit offerings and their drink offerings he offered upon the altar with frankincense. And Yahweh appeared to Abram, and said to him, I am Yahweh Almighty. Approve yourself before me, and be you perfect. And I will make my covenant between me and you, and I will multiply you exceedingly. And Abram fell on his face, and Yahweh talked with him, and said, Behold, my ordinances is with you, and you shall be the father of many nations. Neither shall your name any more be called Abram, but your name from henceforth for even forever shall be Abraham. For the father of many nations have I made you, and I will make you very great, and I will make you into nations, and kings shall come forth from you. And I will establish my covenant between me and you, and your seed, and you throughout their generations, for an eternal covenant, so that I may be a sovereign ruler to you, and to your seed after you. And the land where you have been a sojourner in the land of Canaan, that you may possess it forever, and I will be their sovereign ruler. And Yahweh said to Abram, And as for you, do you keep my covenants, you and your seed after you, and circumcise you every male among you, and circumcise your foreskin, and it shall be a token of an eternal covenant between me and you. And the child on the 8th day you shall circumcise every male throughout your generations, him that is born in the house, or whom you have brought with money from any stranger, whom you have acquired, who is not of your seed. He that is born in your house shall surely be circumcised. And those whom you have bought with money shall be circumcised. And my covenant shall be in your flesh for an eternal ordinance. And the uncircumcised male who is not circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin on the 8th day, that soul shall be cut off from his people, for he has broken my covenant. And Yahweh said to Abram, As for Sarai your wife, her name shall no more be called Sarai, but Sarah shall be her name. And I will bless her, and give you a son by her. And I will bless him, and he shall become a nation, and kings of nations shall proceed from him. And Abram fell on his face, and rejoiced, and said in his heart, Shall a son be born to him that is 100 years old? And shall Sarah, who is 99 years old, bring forth? And Abram said to Yahweh, Oh, that Ishmael might live before you. And Yahweh said, Yes, and Sarah also shall bear you a son, and you
Jubilees 16. And on the new month of the 4th month, we appeared unto Abraham at the oak of Mamre, and we talked with him, and we announced to him that a son would be given to him by Sarah, his wife. And Sarah laughed, for she heard that we had spoken these words with Abraham. And we admonished her, and she became afraid and denied that she had laughed on account of her words. And we told her the name of her son, as his name is ordained and written in the heavenly tablets, is Yitzhak, to laugh. And when we returned to her at a set time, she would have conceived a son. And in this month Yahweh executed his judgment on Sodom and Gomorrah and Zeboim and all the regions of the Jordan. And he burned them with fire and brimstone, and destroyed them until this day, even as I have declared unto you all their works, that they are wicked and sinners exceedingly, and that they defile themselves and commit fornications in their flesh, and work uncleanness on the earth. And in like manner Yahweh will execute judgment on the places where they have done according to the uncleanness of the Sodomites, like unto the judgment of Sodom. But Lot we saved, for Yahweh remembered Abraham, and sent him out from the midst of the overthrow. And he and his daughters committed sin upon the earth, such as had not been on the earth since the days of Adam till this time. And the man lay with his daughters. And behold, it was commanded and engraved concerning all his seed on the heavenly tablets, to remove them and root them out, and to execute judgment upon them like the judgment of Sodom, and to leave no seed of man on earth on the day of condemnation. And in this month Abraham moved from Hebron, and departed and dwelt between Kadesh and Shur, in the mountains of Gerar. And in the middle of the 5th month he moved from there, and dwelt at the well of the oath. And in the middle of the 6th month Yahweh visited Sarah, and did unto her as he had spoken, and she conceived. And she bore a son in the 3rd month, and in the middle of the 1st, at the time of which Yahweh had spoken to Abraham, on the festival of the first fruits of the harvest, Yitzhak was born. And Abraham circumcised his son on the 8th day. He was the first that was circumcised according to the covenant, which is ordained forever, le'olam va'ed. And in the 6th year of the 4th week, we came to Abraham to the well of the oath, and we appeared unto him, as we told Sarah that we should return to her, that we would have conceived, she would have conceived a son. And we returned in the 7th month, and found Sarah with child before us, and we blessed him, and we announced to him all the things which had been decreed concerning him, so that he should not die till he should beget 6 sons more. Jubilees 17. Abraham makes a great banquet, for Yitzhak was weaned. And in the first year of the first week, Yitzhak was weaned in this Jubilee, 1982 a.m. And Abraham made a great banquet in the 3rd month, on the day his son Yitzhak was weaned. And Ishmael, the son of Hagar the Egyptian, was before the face of Abraham his father, in his place. And Abraham rejoiced and blessed Yahweh, because he had seen his sons and had not died childless. And he remembered the words which he had spoken to him on the day which Lot had parted from him. And he rejoiced, because Yahweh had given him seed upon the earth to inherit the earth. And he blessed with all his mouth the Creator of all things. And Sarah saw Ishmael playing and dancing, and Abraham rejoicing with great joy. And she became jealous of Ishmael, and said to Abraham, "Cast out this bondwoman and her son, for the son of this bondwoman will not be heir with my son Yitzhak." And the thing was grievous in Abraham's sight, because of his maidservant and because of his son, that he should drive them out from him. And Yahweh said to Abraham, "Let it not be grievous in your sight because of the child and because of the bondwoman. In all that Sarah has said to you, listen to her words and do them, for Yitzhak, in him shall your name and your seed be called. But as for your son of the bondwoman, I will make him a great nation, because he is of your seed." And Abraham rose up early in the morning, and took bread and a bottle of water, and placed them on the shoulder of Hagar and the child, and sent her away. And she departed and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. And the water in the bottle was spent, and the child thirsted, and was not able to go on, and fell down. And his mother took him, and cast him under an olive tree, and went and sat herself down over against him, at the distance of a bow shot. For she said, "Let me not see the death of my child." And she sat there, and she wept. And a Malach of Yahweh, one of the Kadesh ones, said to her, "Why weep you, Hagar? Arise, take the child, and hold him in your hand, for Yahweh has heard your voice, and has seen the child." And she opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water, and she went and filled her water bottle, and she gave her child to drink, and she arose and went toward the wilderness of Haran. And the child grew and became an archer, and Yahweh was with him, and his mother took him a wife from among the daughters of Egypt. And she bore him a son, and called his name Nebaioth, for she said, "Yahweh was nigh to me when I called upon him." And it came to pass in the 7th month, in the first year thereof, 2003 a.m., in the first month, in this Jubilee, on the 12th of this month, there were voices in the heaven regarding Abraham, and that he was faithful in all that he had told, and that he loved Yahweh, and that in every affliction he was faithful. And the prince The offering up of Yitzhak, Abraham's son. Jubilees 18. And Yahweh said to him, Abraham, Abraham. He said, Behold, here am I, Hineni. And he said, Take your beloved son, whom you love, even Yitzhak, and go into the high country and offer him on one of the mountains which I will point out unto you. And he rose early in the morning and saddled his asses, and took 2 of his young men with him, and Yitzhak his son, and clave the wood of the burnt offering, and he went to the place on the 3rd day. And he saw the place afar off. And he came to a well of water, and he said to his young men, Abide you here with the ass, and I and the lad shall go yonder, and when we have worshipped, we shall come again to you. And he took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it on Yitzhak his son. And he took in his hand the fire and the knife, and they went both of them together to that place. And Yitzhak said to his father, Father, I see, and said, Here am I, my son. And he said to him, Behold the fire, and the knife, and the wood, but where is the sheep for the burnt offering, father? And he said, Yahweh will provide for himself a sheep for an burnt offering, my son. And he drew near to the place of the mount of Yahweh. And he built an altar of unhewn stones, and he placed the wood on the altar, and bound Yitzhak his son, and placed him on the wood which was upon the altar, and stretched forth his hand to take the knife to slay Yitzhak his son, and stood before him and before the prince Mastema. And Yahweh said, Bid him not to lay his hand on the lad, nor to do anything to him, for I have shown that he fears Yahweh. And I called to him from heaven, and said to him, Abram, Abram. And he was terrified, and said, Behold, Hineni, here am I. And I said to him, Lay not your hand upon the lad, neither do you anything to him, for now I have shown that you fear Yahweh, and have not withheld your son, your firstborn son, from me. And the prince Mastema, Satan, was put to shame, and Abraham lifted his eyes and looked, and beheld a ram caught by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram and the offering for a burnt offering in the stead of his son. And Abraham called that place Yahweh has seen, so that it is said, Yahweh has seen, that is Mount Zion. And Yahweh called Abram by his name a second time from heaven, as he caused us to appear and speak to him in the name of Yahweh, Hashem Yahweh, does this thing, and have not withheld your son, and your beloved son from me. Then that in the blessing I will bless you, and in multiplying I will multiply your seed as the stars of the heaven, and as the sand of which is on the seashore. Jubilees 19. And in the first year of the first week, in the 42nd Jubilee, Abram returned and dwelt opposite of Hebron, and that is Kiriath Arba, 2 weeks of years. And in the first year of the third week of this Jubilee, the days of the life of Sarah were accomplished, and she died in Hebron. And Abram went to mourn over her and bury her, and we tried him to see if his spirit were patient and he were not indigent in the words of his mouth. And he was found patient in this, and was not disturbed. For in patience of spirit he conversed with the children of Heth, to the intent that they should give him a place in which to bury his dead. And Yahweh gave him free unmerited favor before all who saw him, and he besought in gentleness the sons of Heth, and they gave him the land of the double cave over against Mamre, that is Hebron, for 400 pieces of silver. And they besought him, saying, We shall give it to you for nothing. But he would not take it from them hands for nothing, for he gave the price of the place, the money in full. And he bowed down before them twice, and after this he buried his dead in the double cave. And although the days of the life of Sarah were 127 years, that is 2 jubilees and 4 weeks and 1 year. These are the days of the years of Sarah's life. This is the 10th trial wherewith Abraham was tried, and he was found faithful, patient in the Ruach. And he said not a single word regarding the rumor in the land, how that Yahweh had said that he would give it to him, and to his seed after him. And he begged a place there to bury his dead. For he was found faithful, and was recorded on the heavenly tablets as a friend of Yahweh. And in the 4th year thereof he took a wife for his son Yitzhak, and her name was Rebekah, in the year 2020 AM, and the daughter of Bethuel, the son of Nahor, the brother of Abraham, the sister of Laban, and the daughter of Bethuel. And Bethuel was the son of Milcah, who was the wife of Nahor, the brother of Abraham. And Abraham took to himself a 3rd wife, and her name was Keturah, from among the daughters of his household servants. For Hagar had died before Sarah, and she bore him 6 sons, Zimran, Jokshan, Median, and Midian, and Ishbak, and Shua, in the 2 weeks of years. And in the 6th week, in the 2nd year thereof, Rebekah bore to Yitzhak 2 sons, Jacob and Esau, in the year 2046 AM. And Jacob was a smooth and upright man, and Esau was fierce, a man of the field, and hairy, and Jacob dwelt in tents. And the youth grew, and Jacob learned to write, but Esau did not learn, for he was a man